Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Georgie McGilly from Georgia-Beth Photography, and today I'm going to be talking to you about all the things that I wish I'd known when I was planning my own wedding. So as you know, I release wedding planning tips and inspiration every single Thursday evening. A lot of couples get engaged, get really excited about getting married, and then have no clue where to start, and also make kind of silly little mistakes that they just didn't know anything about, and it's not their fault, they just didn't know. So if you are planning your own wedding and you haven't booked a wedding planner, then these are the things that I would say make sure that you don't forget or make sure that you don't miss out on. If you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe so that you can be notified every single week when I release these new wedding tips and inspiration videos. And let's get straight into it. Okay, so first things first. Do your research. When I first got married, it was kind of off the back of maybe only one or two friends being married and having been to their weddings in adult life anyway. I was very young, and so I just kind of planned the way that they had planned it, got a little kind of spreadsheet from a friend, those sort of things, and didn't really spend time researching it. And actually there is so much out there. Yes, there might not have been as much back 7 years ago, but now in 2020, if you are planning your wedding, there is so much access to so many different things to figure out what your options are. So I highly recommend research your options. Don't just go for what your friend last year had at their wedding. Have a little look into all the different options of what you can get. And that is literally my biggest piece of advice. There's so much you can find on Instagram, on Pinterest. Yes, Pinterest did exist. I did have a Pinterest board, but Instagram is such a good place for researching actual wedding suppliers and vendors and reaching out to them and just having those sort of like initial chats. So many suppliers are happy to just sit down and have a chat with you before you're interested in booking them anyway, just to find out all the details. Go ahead and look at my other wedding planning YouTube videos, things like what you should ask your wedding venue before you even turn up, and then what you should ask them while you're going on your wedding venue tours, all those sort of things. I didn't know any of this stuff. So just make sure you do your research, watch my videos. There's quite a few other people out there who are doing like wedding planning and inspiration videos as well in the UK. So do your research. If you're interested in downloading my free wedding checklist and guide, that's kind of the first thing that I'd recommend you do. Download the guide, it's in the description below, and then it kind of has a month by month where to even start with wedding planning, what to do each month, that sort of thing. And that's really, really useful because it comes from me spending years working with wedding planners, working with other people in the wedding industry and being at so many weddings, and I've kind of compiled this list from all that experience. So you're not going straight into this wedding planning journey with kind of no knowledge whatsoever. So make sure that you grab that from the description below. Okay, second point is budget. I definitely recommend that you start off with a budget and you split that into suppliers. So figure out how much money you're willing to spend, or how much money combined with, if people are chipping in, parents or whatever, figure out how much you are going to spend on the entire wedding, and then you want to split that into sections. Figure out how much you want to put towards the venue, towards the catering, your photographer. I'm a photographer, so go ahead and pop me a message if you're interested in booking a UK wedding photographer. But all those sorts of things, you want to make sure that you kind of cut your money up basically into sections, so that when you then go and inquire, you're not going to go and inquire for somebody way out of your budget range, but you're also not going to go for someone much cheaper than the budget that you've given, because it means that you can get that quality. You don't want to kind of book everything and then realise you've not got enough money to book a decent photographer, so your photos are rubbish. So even though you had a stunning wedding day with a really amazing expensive venue, your photos and memories of them are going to be horrible because you booked a really cheap photographer. All those sorts of things. So make sure that you split up the budget before you even kind of look at anywhere, so that you know how much money you've allocated to each section. And yes, as you go on, you might learn more and you might kind of pinch some from that and put it into that, but you want to have that initial plan before you head into booking anywhere at all. Another thing that I would definitely do is, if you found a supplier for whatever within your wedding, whether it's catering, a venue, whether it's music, whether it's photography, anything like that, if you've booked them and you're really happy with them and their service, then I would definitely ask them, who are your recommended suppliers? Who have you worked with before that you love, or who you know would work well with me? Because that's usually a really good way of finding somebody that you know you can trust and will fit in with your kind of the vibe of the day or the theme of the day. People like your wedding planner and your photographer, those are the sorts of people that are going to be with you for most of the day, and you want to be able to gel with them and get on with them, and also you want them to really capture your vision for the day so that it's unique to you. So definitely go ahead and ask, even if you're just chatting to somebody on Instagram DMs, go ahead and ask them, who do you recommend for my florist, something like that, and then that will really help you find those people that are going to be essential to your day. Okay, another thing that I wish I'd done before I kind of went ahead and planned my wedding is had a very specific theme in mind with my decorations and everything like that. I did a lot of DIY stuff for my wedding because it was kind of a budget wedding, but even if you're not doing DIY, you don't want to go ahead and buy some wedding favors or some different decorations for the tables or something if they then later on down the line you realise they don't fit in with everything else that you've booked or hired. So you want to make sure that you've got a really clear idea of what your wedding theme and look is going to be, so that you don't just go crazy, get really excited, find something really pretty, buy it, and then realise that actually you've just wasted that money because it's not going to fit in with the look of the wedding day, or you try and make it fit in and then you regret it later on. So make sure you've got an idea of your budget, you've done your research, and you've got a very clear idea of how you want your wedding to look. Okay, the next point is kind of a little bit vague, but you want to make sure that you think everything through properly, and that you also don't assume that your vendors or suppliers know exactly what you're thinking, because obviously we all as wedding suppliers serve so many different kinds of people, and a lot of couples quite often assume, and for me a big part of being a wedding photographer is that pre-wedding communication, making sure I'm meeting up with a couple, I'm chatting through their day, figuring out exactly what they want, how they want it, so that I can serve them in the best way possible. But some suppliers and vendors, depending on what their trade is, all that sort of thing, don't necessarily have all that communication beforehand. So you want to make sure that you are asking them the questions. If you are expecting your photographer to come with a backdrop, you need to ask them. If you're expecting your caterers to have people to serve the food, you need to make sure you check with them that, because you don't want the caterers turning up on the day and realizing that your bridesmaids are going to have to bust the tables basically. So just make sure that you're asking those questions, that you're thinking every little step through. Do your research on what you need to do. So for me, for my wedding, we provided our own soft drinks bar, and I didn't realise at the time, but we hadn't actually bought enough drinks, which is a bit crazy. But we had an amazing team of friends who went out and sorted it all, and we didn't even realise on the day, and they were absolutely amazing. Shout out to you guys. But you want to make sure that you've thought through all of that stuff. Clean up time, so after the wedding or even during the wedding, maybe the tables are all being moved and stuff, but you haven't hired people to serve the tables or clear the tables up. Who's going to do that? Are you going to go and hire a team? Are you going to assign some friends who aren't the bridal party maybe to just ask them to kind of go around with a bin bag and clear up? It's up to you how you want to do it, how much of a budget you're on, but you want to make sure that you've thought through that, because clear up does actually take a lot longer than you think it does, and sometimes people will be there hours after the wedding or on the next day clearing everything up. So make sure that you've set enough time for that, that you've spoken to the venue about what they clean up, whether they let you come in the next day, all those sorts of things, so that you are really prepared for that. Another thing that I look back on my wedding day and kind of regret a little bit is that I didn't give myself enough time to kind of sort my makeup out or sort my hair out. So I had a really beautiful old 200-year-old veil actually that I wore during my ceremony, that's been passed down in my family, and it was lovely to be able to wear it, but it was actually really heavy, and it actually pulled out a lot of my wedding hair, which I was absolutely gutted about. And a lot of my photos, my hair's quite messy in them, and I did kind of quickly try and pin it back in. But because you think you're the bride on the day, you need to be saying hello to everyone, you need to be this and that, that in my head, I didn't give myself time to just go into the bathroom and spend a little bit of time fixing my hair and get a bridesmaid to come and help me. I didn't do that, and now I look back on the photos and feel really sad because my hair had been done beautifully by the hairdresser, but actually not many of the photos show that. And so I just recommend for you guys that you would just give yourself time. you're the bride or you're the groom, you're allowed to go and spend 10-15 minutes in the bathroom, start reapplying your makeup if you want to. You know, those things shouldn't happen. That's just a sad thing that happened on my day. But I'd recommend to you that don't worry about what everybody else is thinking, because they're just there because they love you and want you to have the best day ever. So make sure that you give yourself time. If you need to grab a bridesmaid to come into the bathroom and help you fix your hair, then just ask them. They'll willingly do it. They're there for you. They're there to serve you and celebrate your big day with you. So yeah, don't have the same regret that I did. I'd also make sure that you hire somebody to coordinate the day, a day coordinator. So if you've not got a wedding planner on the day, then I would definitely hire like a master of ceremonies or somebody to announce what's happening when, making sure that everything runs smoothly, because that's something that you don't want to be worrying about on your day as well. So hire somebody like that who can make sure that yes, the bands come in and set up at the right time, yes, food's happening at the right time, all that sort of thing, that so that your timeline works, so that if you've got separate guests coming in the evening, they're not going to walk in halfway through the speeches because they're not done yet because the speeches started late. All those sorts of things. Have somebody that is going to kind of take charge of that and make sure. So you can hire someone, if you are on a budget, you can just assign that to somebody, but I'd recommend that isn't necessarily somebody in your bridal party. Find somebody who's a good friend, who is happy to kind of serve you on that day, who's also not going to miss out on some of the essential moments that you want your bridal party to be a part of. And then my last tip is, while you're wedding planning, just surround yourself with supportive people, whether that be your parents, your best mate, whether that's the people who are going to be your bridesmaids and groomsmen, whether that's just some other friends. Make sure they're people who are going to support you, chat through stuff with you if you're feeling stressed, if you're worried about anything, to kind of help you to be able to come round in an evening and sign invitations with you, all those sorts of things. You need to have people that are really going to support you, and you're not just doing this on your own. So I'd highly recommend pick a few people that you know are just going to really love you through it and help you with the decisions, and just support you for whatever you want to happen on the day, and not kind of take control, if that makes sense. And yeah, you guys are going to have an amazing day. And so again, I'm just going to go back over the points very quickly, but just make sure you do your research, make sure that you have a budget and you split it up, make sure you haven't assumed that the suppliers know exactly what you want, make sure that you're asking them questions. For example, caterers, if they haven't told you how long it's going to take to serve all of the food, ask that so that you can put it in your timeline. Things like that, you just want to make sure that you've got nice and clear. Don't assume that they're going to tell you everything, and just think through each and every step. And like I've said, go ahead and subscribe to my channel, because I give out wedding planning inspiration and advice every single week for you. So make sure that you subscribe, and you won't end up having a day where you regret loads, because you will have had all that amazing advice from all the years that I've spent in the wedding industry. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're really well. Make sure you pop in the comments what your wedding date is if you've planned and booked a venue, and I will see you guys really soon. I'm always cheering you on.